Jeff Hafley, head coach for Boston College, or formerly the head coach for Boston College, is taking the defensive coordinator job with the Green Bay Packers. And it wasn't so much that he took this job in the NFL that made the ripple effect. I mean, definitely it's a massive loss for the folks at Boston College, I believe at least. They just won a bowl game. They beat a ranked team, SMU, in the bowl game. They won they had 7 wins last season. Like, they were, in my opinion, trending in the right direction, even with that subpar season the year before. I thought he was doing good things at Boston College, to put it simply. So Boston College now has to find a head coach pretty late in the college football head coaching carousel. But what drew the most response was the reasons tied to Jeff Hafley leaving Boston College. Pete Thamel of ESPN does tremendous work, obviously. I mean, he's the authority for all things in college football. And in his tweet, or the thread to his tweet about Jeff Hafley taking the job for the Packers, he had a couple of other notes underneath that. And he said, per Pete Thamel's Twitter, Hafley's reasons for taking this coordinator job are rooted in both the overall state of college football and the opportunity to work for one of the NFL's most respected franchises. Pause right there. Okay, the overall state of college football had something to do with Jeff Hafley taking this job. Not everything to do, but something to do. Okay, let's continue. The other note from a report was Pete Thamel talking to a source, and the source says, quote, he wants to go coach football again in a league that is all about football. A source told ESPN, college coaching has become fundraising, NIL, and recruiting your own team and transfers. There's no time to coach football anymore. Okay, so I feel like that's pretty cut and dry. That source is saying, hey, when it comes to what college football is right now, doesn't really look as recognizable as maybe Jeff Hafley remembers it. Maybe it wasn't exactly what he signed up for at the front of this thing. Then Kirk Herbstreit also took to Twitter and had some things to say because someone quote tweeted that report. And basically the point they made was, hey, the NFL is the NFL. Jeff Hafley's leaving because the NFL is awesome and he wants to go coach at the very highest level of the sport. There's some validity to that, but Kirk Herbstreit responded and said, no, college football in its current state will be seeing more and more coaches heading to the NFL. Without boundaries and regulation, that makes sense. Coaches that get real opportunities in the NFL will be gone. This trend will continue until there is a new governing body and creates a collective bargaining agreement with a player's entity or union that would include issues like NIL, transfer portal, and eventually revenue sharing. This sport is spiraling out of control, and we know many coaches are not sticking around and waiting. Just a reality for the sport. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, right? There was a ton of things we just threw at you. I think the right answer is probably somewhere in the middle when we talk about Jeff Hafley taking the job with the Packers. The first part of this, I think everything that's being said is true. As long as college football continues on this trend, we're going to see good coaches leave the sport. Now, I said good coaches. I did not say every coach. I did not say every single coach that gets offered an NFL opportunity is going to leave. I think the way the sport is structured right now, you're going to see some coaches feel how Jeff Hafley feels and say, you know what I signed up for and the way that college football is evolving, those things don't really match anymore. Because just what that report said from Pete Thamel and ESPN, like in college football today, there's less that has to do with coaching and more that has to do with roster retention, scouting the transfer portal, making sure teams don't poach your transfers, making sure that you have the right resources for NIL to acquire top talent and keep top talent. Like, there's so many factors here that are not what college football used to be. I talked to a coach about a year ago, and he was just saying, like, man, I wish I was coaching the guys that I recruited all the way through graduation. Like, he was telling me it's more and more rare for him as a coach to recruit a kid out of high school, have him stay all 4 years, and then shake his hand once he gets his degree. Like that's what a lot of these guys sign up for. A lot of these guys sign up for, yes, the competitive aspect, and yes, being able to earn a pretty nice paycheck. That's obviously a part of this. But there's a very real factor in college athletics of investment into a player personally and seeing them develop and seeing them succeed and wanting to impact young people in a positive way. And then also diving full speed into what college football is from a gameplay standpoint. Actually, the X's and O's, the football side of this. And with all the extra curriculars that get added in now with NIL, with the portal, with having to keep your players on your roster and make sure they're not getting poached. Like, that's not what a lot of these guys signed up for. It's not just about football. It's football as a portion of this and then a lot of extra things tied into it. That's true. And I'm not saying that that's not a reality. That's not something we're going to have to face here. Kirby Smart actually said as well during his first interview, I want to say it was after his first national championship, the morning after. I think it's with ESPN. The calendar, if you're a college football coach or just a college football personnel in general, like it sucks. Like you are working around the clock. And so if you're a person with a family or if you're married or whatever, like you don't have time to pour into those. Like Matthew McConaughey talks about life in terms of getting a grade in certain sectors. Like, okay, you got a certain grade for your work, a certain grade for your personal life, certain grade for your family life, and then, so on and so forth. I think college coaches would say they have to get an A in their professional life. And then from that point forward, it's impossible to get anything more than a C+ in any other category because of the demand. Now, on the other side of things, on the NFL level, you have I want to say close to 4 to 5 weeks of vacation time. Like you're not recruiting around the clock. You finish the season, take a deep breath, and the season's long now. Don't get it twisted. You play, if you're playing in the Super Bowl, you're playing north of 20 games. But the reality is you have more time to be a real person, to invest in your family, to take vacation, to get to know your kids. Things like that are a reality in NFL, whereas in collegiate ranks, it's a lot more difficult to do right now. Not impossible, but it's a lot more difficult to do. So that's a reality. The calendar, what's going on with college football, that's definitely a reason why we're losing people. On top of that, though, I think the right answer with these future-thinking thoughts around college football is somewhere in the middle. Because that's true. It's very extreme, and it's going to cause some guys to leave. The other side of this, though, is just what that report said around Jeff Hafley leaving for the Packers. The opportunity to coach in the NFL is absolutely attractive. And in the NFL, there's not that many jobs. You don't just wander your way into a defensive coordinator job in one of those 32 teams. You got to be a really good freaking coach, and you have to be extremely well connected, and you have to have paid your dues. There's a lot that goes into getting those jobs. And so this idea that we just have a bunch of people sprinting for the door out of college football, I don't think that's all the way true. Now, will we continue to lose good coaches? There's no doubt about it. It's inevitable. The way that sport's trending, no doubt about it. But to say that we're going to lose half our coaches to the NFL, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's a reality. So it might be gradual. And I think as long as this continues to be the reality in college football, we will see some good people leave, but I don't think it's going to be quite as violent as maybe some people are expecting it to be. So Jeff Hafley leaving for the NFL, more power to him, more power to the Green Bay Packers. Boston College now is on their head coaching search as of last night, and we will obviously monitor that, and we'll monitor the changes in college football as we always would. But the idea that college football coaches are just trying to get out of the sport, not all the way true. I would say, though, you might see a little bit less of less longevity for some of these college football coaches. I don't think that's unreasonable to assume, but I do not think that we're in the place where everyone's just trying to get out of the sport. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.